Okay, so just imagine this for a second. You've been traveling for hours, you're exhausted, and you finally pull up to your new apartment. You're hopeful, right? But the very first person you meet, the security guard, looks at you with pure terror in his eyes and says this.
That's not a welcome, that's a warning. And it's the hook that yanks us right into this horrifying story.
So let's meet the couple at the center of all this, Ronov and Juhi. Things are looking up for them. Ronov got a promotion and Juhi is 7 months pregnant with their first child. This apartment, provided by his company, is supposed to be the perfect place to start their family. You know, their big fresh start.
But that fresh start? Well, it starts to go bad almost immediately. Let's break down these first signs, the huge red flags that pop up the second they arrive at the building.
The guard's reaction isn't subtle at all. The moment he lays eyes on Juhi's pregnant belly, he actually recoils like he's seen a ghost. He begs them, go to a hotel, and even offers to find them a totally different house. Now Ronov, who's just tired and wants to get inside, pretty much blows him off. But as they go upstairs, the guard looks up at their flat and the lights flicker, almost like the apartment itself knows they're here.
So they ignore the warning and settle in. And this is where the horror shifts from the outside world right into the most intimate space of their home. And it focuses squarely on Juhi.
The very first night, Juhi's asleep and she feels it, a hand on her pregnant stomach. But it's not her husband's. This hand is rough and it's hot, like unnaturally hot. When she shoves it away, her own hand feels like it's just been burned. This is not some noise in the hall. This is a direct physical attack, and it's targeting her and her unborn baby.
And this moment right here reveals the psychological core of the story. For Juhi, this was a real physical assault. It was terrifying. But for Ronov, he sees nothing. No mark, no proof. He just writes it off as a bad dream, stress from the move. So the horror isn't just the ghost. It's that she is completely and utterly alone in this experience.
From there, things escalate fast. They hire a new maid who takes one look around the apartment and gives Juhi the same exact warning as the guard. You need to leave. Then, a black cat with these piercing red eyes just appears, out of nowhere. The maid is terrified and runs for her life, but she doesn't make it. In the elevator, the cat reappears, transforms into a shadow, and she dies a horrible, unexplained death. And through all this, Ronov's disbelief just makes Juhi's isolation and terror even worse.
Okay, so all the warnings, the shadows, the creepy feelings, it's all been leading up to this. The story is hitting its climax. This is the night where there's no more room for doubt. This is when the couple comes face to face with whatever has been tormenting them.
It all starts with a sound, a voice coming from nowhere, singing a lullaby. You are the moon, you are my sun. But believe me, this is anything but comforting. As the voice gets louder, Juhi's unborn baby starts kicking violently, like it's reacting in absolute terror. There is a terrifying link between this spirit and her child.
And then they see it. A shadow sitting on their bed, cradling a doll. It looks right at Juhi, and its motive becomes chillingly clear. It speaks, and its demand is terrifyingly simple. This child is mine. Give it to me. So now we know this haunting isn't random. It has a very specific, horrifying goal.
The whole scene just explodes into chaos. A shadowy hand reaches for Juhi's stomach and she screams out in agony. Ronov tries to get them out, but the front door slams shut, trapping them. Then the black cat is back and it launches itself right at Ronov's face. In the middle of all this madness, the doll the ghost is holding transforms into the image of a dead baby. Seeing that horrifying sight is just too much for Juhi. She screams and then she collapses.
And the horror reaches its most devastating conclusion. In the terror of that attack, Juhi loses the baby. The entity, in a way, got what it wanted. It couldn't take the child, so it made sure no one could have it.
So the worst has happened, but the big question is, why? What could possibly create a spirit so full of rage and so focused on this one thing? Well, now we get the answers. The security guard, riddled with guilt, finally tells Ronov the entire tragic story of Flat No 18.
This is the question at the heart of it all, isn't it? Who was she? What happened inside those walls that was so awful it could literally stay in a place forever? The guard's story lays it out all. And the truth is just a story of absolute heartbreak and betrayal. A woman who used to live there desperately wanted a child but couldn't have one, so she treated a doll like her baby, even singing it that same lullaby. She and her husband hired a surrogate, but then the surrogate blackmailed the husband, telling him to leave his wife for her. And in a moment of panic and desperation, he made a horrific choice. He murdered his wife, burning her alive in that very flat, along with her precious doll. Her spirit never left.
So this is the perfect recipe for a vengeful spirit. Her actions, they aren't random. They are born from an agony that we can now understand. She was betrayed by her husband and denied the one thing she wanted more than anything in the world. Her spirit was trapped by that rage. So when she saw Juhi, another woman, pregnant and happy in her home, all that pain found a new target.
Ranav and Juhi's part in this story ends in tragedy, but the story of Flat No. 18, that doesn't end at all. Let's take a look at the chilling aftermath for everyone involved.
In the end, there are absolutely no winners here. Juhi is completely shattered, suffering a total mental breakdown. Ranav moves them away to take care of his broken wife. And the ghost? She's still there. Her pain was never resolved, her rage was never satisfied, she just remains in Flat No. 18.
And that is the truly chilling conclusion. The presence never left. Ranav and Juhi were just its latest victims. The story ends by telling us that even today, if you listen closely late at night, you can still hear the faint sound of that lullaby coming from the empty apartment.
Which brings us to one last unsettling question. Now that you know the full tragic history of what happened in those walls and what is still there, if the rent was free, would you dare to move into Flat number 18? Thanks for joining us on The